we had to respond. We could not leave the Pakistani terrorists with the impression that they can walk into our country, kill civilian tourists, walk away and get away with impunity. They had to be punished. They had to realize there had to be a price to be paid. What India has done in Operation Sindoor is so well calculated. We have only hit terror sites. Both India and Pakistan are our neighbors, and we don't want a conflict in our neighborhood. We would want peace. We would want both countries to actually exercise restraint and calm and come back to peace. Now, I think the operation was extremely well calibrated, well calculated, and effectively executed. I am very impressed with everything from the naming of the operation to the manner in which it was presented to the world in the briefing yesterday, and of course, above all, the actual operation itself. Because we had to respond, we could not leave the Pakistani terrorists with the impression that they can walk into our country, kill civilian tourists, walk away and get away with impunity. They had to be punished. They had to realize there had to be a price to be paid. But at the same time, an indiscriminate reaction on our part could have needlessly provoked an escalation and lost us the sympathy of the world. What India has done in Operation Sindoor is so well calculated. We have only hit terror sites, well-known bases of organizations like the Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Hizbul Mujahideen. These are organizations that are on the proscribed list of the UN Sanctions Committee. So the world knows that these are actually really terrorist organizations, and it's their bases we have hit, whatever the Pakistanis may say. Secondly, we did so at night, between 1:05 and 1:30. The message is very clear. We are not anxious to strike at a time when there might be a lot of civilians wandering around the streets. We want to avoid collateral damage. We're not interested in killing innocent people, unlike the terrorists themselves. We're interested only in dealing with the terrorists. Third, we took great care to ensure that we did not strike any Pakistani military installations or government facilities. What was the reason for that? It's not that we believe the military is innocent. On the contrary, we are quite sure that these terrorists are systematically created, trained, financed, equipped, and guided and directed by the Pakistani military, or at least by elements within the Pakistani military. But we don't want to convey the impression that we're itching for a war. Our job is not to fire the first salvo in a protracted conflict. Our job is to teach them a lesson and wash our hands of the matter. That's the idea of what our strike is all about. And I believe that signal has come across extremely well. So now when the world calls for restraint, the restraint is not on us. We are not only restrained, we are silent. We're not doing anything more. It is upon Pakistan that the onus is not to overreact. As you know, Pakistan has sadly reacted very, very cruelly with heavy artillery shelling on civilian areas. They have killed 15 people in Poonch. 59 people are in hospital today.
There's still attacks going on. Yeah,
the attacks are going on. But even there, we have confined ourselves to reacting in kind. We have also fired artillery back at them and nothing more. So the truth is that we have been responsible citizens of the world throughout this exercise. We have shown that there can be zero tolerance for terrorism. We have demonstrated that we have a sovereign right to defend ourselves against terror and to take action against terrorism, but at the same time that we are not interested in creating any conflict situation of a durable nature. We are not putting a foot on the escalatory ladder. So the ball is very much on Pakistan's court. If they decide to escalate, how are they going to escalate? We don't have any terrorist bases in India. They can only attack the army, they can only attack civilians, or they can attack the government of India. If they do that, then we will give them absolute hell. There's no question about that. We are prepared. I have no doubt about that. I have close friends and relatives in the army. Our people are fully alert and ready in the event of any Pakistani misadventure.
Do you think that our strategic objective is served? And also, but one more thing I want to add, sir. We are seeing world reactions. Most of the big powers are supporting us, but -1. How do you see the role of China in this now? Do you think China is
a little more complicated than support and lack of support? All countries have called for restraint and calm and peace and so on. That's normal. No one wants to see an escalating war between two nuclear powers. 3 countries, Russia, France, and Israel, are the only ones that have specifically shown understanding publicly for India's right to defend itself against terrorism. All the others have been silent on that subject, even though America in principle should have said something, given that they are the ones who reacted when they were attacked by terrorists. Most strongly, the famous attack on Afghanistan after 9/11. But still, they haven't said that. They've kept trying to convey an even-handedness, with Trump saying he gets along with both countries and so on. China, surprisingly, did not actually take as pro-Pakistan a stand as your question is implying. What China said was, both India and Pakistan are our neighbors, and we don't want a conflict in our neighborhood. We would want peace. We would want both countries to actually exercise restraint and calm and come back to peace. That is actually not a negative message for us by comparison with the fact that China has historically called themselves an all-weather friend of Pakistan and has given Pakistan support and military equipment and technology and all of that. What China said suggests that they are not oblivious of the fact that relations with India were in the process of warming, and what is more, that the Indian market is all the more important to China today in the Trumpian world of high tariffs and more withdrawals from China. China needs India in a way they didn't need India before. So I don't think at this stage that China's reaction should cause us any undue alarm and concern. Now, if there really were a war, of course, China would be supporting Pakistan. But to prevent a war, I think China will take a constructive approach, in my view. I may be wrong. Remember, I don't have access to any classified information, but this is my...
Publicly, they have shown a balanced approach, you're saying. Part of it. We have seen opposition also standing with the government on this, surprisingly, because there has been a lot of... They were at loggerheads on all issues almost in India. But here, I think they are all standing today. When we are talking, the all-party meeting will be going on in the Parliament House. How do you see this kind of synthesis, or you can synchronization between the opposition and the government? And
I think this is extremely important. In any situation of national crisis, we must be united. Political differences stop when it comes to national security. And as far as I'm concerned, I think the Congress was first off the bat to quickly announce its complete support for the government and the armed forces. We are standing, all of us together, united in this matter. The government too has done its part by both before and after Operation Sindoor, taking the opposition parties into confidence, by calling all-party meetings. These were, in my view, the right things for the government to do. And I think if we signal to the world that we are united, there's nothing we can't achieve. We must not at this time give any impression of disunity, and I believe there is no disunity. I believe the country fully understands why the government did what it did and stands with the government and the armed forces in this matter. We are all under the same flag together, and there's no doubt about that.